Good morning and welcome to our third installment of Curriculum Corner. I'm really excited today to have Don Russell, one of our teachers over at SAU16 School of Technologies and Careers in Education, and a senior, Rachel Corey. So glad to have a student perspective finally here to talk about what we're doing. Today's episode is about student-driven assessments and kind of how we're challenging students in different ways. So we're just going to ask some questions to both Ms. Russell and Rachel and get their perspective of what we're doing and how we keep challenging students. So Ms. Russell, when you hear the word or term student-driven assessment, what did it mean to you, and what does it mean to you now that you've been employing that strategy with your students for some time now?
I think that when we talk about student-driven assessment, it's different from our understanding of traditional assessment. So when I think to compare them, I think of traditional assessment as a teacher or some outside entity is determining how much a student understands based on their output on typically a teacher-designed assessment. And so in that sense, student-driven assessment for me is different in the fact that it requires the student to take a more active role in the assessment process, and the student is helping determine the depth of their understanding. And it still could be on a teacher-designed assessment or maybe an assessment that they have chosen as a way to demonstrate their understanding. But no matter what the kind of assessment is, the student's voice is part of that process. And for us, that means reflection, student reflection. So for my students, it means a lot of reflection. I think Rachel can tell you a little bit more about that. But basically, everything we do is looking back on what was our goal, did I reach it, what did I learn, what am I still fuzzy about, how can I continue my learning moving forward. But there's that student element in it that maybe isn't as prominent in a traditional assessment.
I think for me, student-driven assessment is it's much more rewarding and much more motivating when I have a goal that I want to work towards and I want to accomplish. So for the reflections, for example, I know that I've done certain things in the preschool that I want to tell Ms. Russell about, and the reflection is a way for me to kind of express that to her. So when I have the reflection that is something that I want to write about and I want to explain to her, it's much more rewarding for me to explain that to her rather than her, telling me to write something specific that is maybe not something that is really super important to me, but I know there's something else in the unit that I've done really well and I really want to express to her.
So Rachel, can you expand upon that for me? Ms. Russell said voice and choice, which is one of the major components to competency-based education. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about how important that is for you to really, like you said, a passion of learning? You're writing about what you want to write about rather than something that's given to you and you're like, okay, I'll do it. But can you talk more about that voice and choice and how you select that voice and choice or what that means when you're working in your classroom?
Yeah, so for example, I remember last year, Ms. Russell came to us and she was like, do you think it would be more beneficial for you guys to first listen to me talk about it, or you go off and read it on your own and then I talk to you about it? And so she kind of gave us that choice to be like, how do we want to take the information in? And then when we have student voice and choice of how we want to present it, whether it be different forms of like a presentation or when we were working on developmental domains, we got to choose the age that we wanted to present on or the type of developmental domain that we wanted to present on. And so I feel like that shows not only the teacher but the student like what they do know, what they need to know, and I feel like it shows the teacher more than what the student,
No, I think what you're saying is that when you're engaged with it, then you're motivated to learn. Yeah. And so you dive deeper, you are more interested in the material, and you have, it's relevant and meaningful to you. And so then you invest more of your time and energy into it. And I think that's how it is for all of us. We engage more if it's interesting to us. And so I do think that sometimes people hear voice and choice and they think, oh, it's there's no accountability and it's a free-for-all, and why do we even need teachers if it's all student voice and choice? And I would argue that is not accurate, and that voice and choice doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. It means that you're constructing intentional opportunities for students to choose how they dive deeper into the material. So there's still a general expectation of curriculum content that's going to be covered, but research skills is a skill that students need. if they're more engaged and passionate about learning those skills on a topic that they're interested in, then we should give them some opportunity to embrace that, and that's going to drive their learning. So I think, you know, you need a teacher to do that and to intentionally create those learning opportunities. And I actually think there's more accountability in that because the student is helping set the goal for what they want to achieve, and they're coming up with a plan to meet that goal, and then they're reflecting on whether or not they've met it. So actually, the accountability and depth of learning is a lot greater than if it were just handed or scribed to them.
So can you talk about that depth of learning? Talk about that student thinking. Can you talk about the shifts you've seen where kids really have taken accountability or that control of their learning compared to when we just gave them material and said, give us a test back? And they may have gotten everything right, but the difference between those two types of assessments.
I think for me, what I really enjoy seeing is that I know it's working better because it's sticking with them. So to have seniors like Rachel who are in their second year of the program and they are pulling back, they're recalling all of this information and applying it to their new situations, to me, that's how I know it's better, because so many times we have conversations in class about the one and done, you learn it for the test and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And I think one of the great things about career and tech education, especially in SST, is that it's so hands-on and you're using that information so much more deeply that it sticks. And so the depth of their knowledge is, you know, so much greater than it might be in just a one and done unit of study and a test. And they're applying it in real world situations. So that's where I think it really sticks for the students. Do you agree?
Yeah, I definitely do agree. I actually wrote this in the last reflection that we did. And so, like, in any other class, you're there to memorize the material and get an A on the test because you want a good grade. And then summer rolls around and you're like, all right, well, I just forgot everything from that year, starting off new year fresh, don't have any other previous knowledge. But I feel like for careers in ed, it's not like that at all. I was able to come into this new year remembering everything that I did last year, ready to use it, ready to improve on it. And I think it's that student-driven assessment and that voice and choice that really made that possible, because I wanted to improve it. I wanted to work on it, and I was able to actually apply it in a real life manner instead of just writing it down on a test just to memorize the material and get a good grade.
So talk to me a little bit how you've changed your thinking. So maybe from a traditional classroom where it was just memorize to get a good grade to really applying, because this is something that you, careers in education is something that you want to further. How do you use it to keep applying? Like it was really refreshing to say, I can use this on day one, where before I had forgotten. So
and maybe tell him too, like what you're interested in doing in the future, because not everybody in our program wants to be a teacher.
Sure.
Yeah, so I want to study psychology and early childhood development, and I hope for in the future to be able to work with children that have autism and do something called ABA therapy. And so I know I can use these skills in the future with that profession. And also, I have a little brother at home. He's 7 years old, so I'm able to use these skills with him at home, and it's really fun to see how they impact him positively. For me, Careers in Ed is obviously a class that I chose because I want this to help me when I go on to college. So it's a lot different for this class because it's something that I want to pursue rather than, you know, maybe like a math class or an English class where I am trying to get that good grade. But this class is, I like being able to apply it not only in my life, but also in the classroom, in the preschool.
Excellent. Ms. Russell, what about you? How have you changed your instructional strategies where you're using more student-driven assessment? What have you had to think about and reflect on your own practice of what you were doing and how maybe you've changed?
Yeah, so I think the important thing is with student-driven assessment, we typically think of assessment as like the end product, but you can't have student-driven assessment if you haven't had student-driven learning all the way through, because they have to have opportunities to hone those skills. And so for me, I have had to work really hard at how can I involve my students more in the learning process itself, which from, at 25 plus years of teaching, we're used to being the designer of the material and the lessons and how we're engaging them. And, we all develop and change our strategy over time. And I, like to think that I'm good at differentiating and meeting students' needs. But for me, to involve them more, I really had to look at, where do we want them to be when they graduate? And so if we look at our portrait of a graduate, we want them to be expert learners. Well, if they're going to be expert learners, I can't be their primary source of information because I'm not going with you for the rest of your life. If I want them to be good collaborators, I can't tell them be a good collaborator. I have to give them opportunities to build those collaboration skills. If I want them to be effective communicators, they need to be the ones talking more in class, not me. And that's been a shift for me, professionally and with my own teaching. So what I'm trying to do now is involve them more in the learning design process. And so my own work with Universal Design for Learning has really helped that because it's really helped me focus on, am I offering them multiple means to engage with the material? So like Rachel said, we're learning about child development, that's the curriculum competency, but how can they explore it in a way that's engaging for them? And then how are they accessing the information that they need? It doesn't all have to come from me, so maybe they can choose if they want to read about it or if they want to go interview an expert or if they want to watch a video about it. And then how are they going to show me what they learned? So I'm trying to pull into those multiple opportunities for engagement and representation and expression as I design units of study, which is different because I'm handing more over to them, but it's really exciting to see the results, and I think that it's working.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I'm still working on it. Sure. I'm growing, but I like it.
So when we do talk about that end of the year assessment, you've kind of changed to a portfolio defense. I want to call it a portfolio celebration because after all the work you've done, you should be celebrating about the work and the learning that you've just accomplished. Can you talk about that? I unfortunately couldn't watch them last year, but I'm excited and I want to hear what Rachel has to say in May or June for her portfolio celebration. But just kind of talk about that, what that means, what the students are doing, and how you got to that point.
I think it's important first to say that SST has always had a portfolio component, so that was something that was already set in place when I came on board 9 years ago. And some of our teachers that have been there for over 25 years, like Ann DeMarco, she was mentoring me on how to actually facilitate a portfolio share. I think the shift for me as a teacher in the past couple of years is really what we do with it or what the students do with it. So for me, it used to be more of a professional portfolio that I would tell them, well, you can take this to a job interview or take it to your dean of the education department and see if you can get some classes waived. But it was more of a professional collection of exemplary work. And it was something that they kind of took with them, but they didn't really do much with them. And so the shift for me in the past year has really been to take it from just a professional showcase of their learning to actually a learning portfolio that they can use as a talking piece to really show what they've learned and the depth of their understanding. So the way that I think the missing piece for me up until this point, which some people had been doing, like I said, Anne was really helpful in helping me kind of figure out how to make it work, but is sharing it with an authentic audience. Like that's, for me, was the missing link, is they worked really hard on this, but then it didn't go anywhere unless they carried it with them. Sure. And so to be able to sit down and when I say an authentic audience, I mean like people that connect their work to the real world. So for our portfolio, we called it a share last year because it was voluntary and I thought defense was a little frightening.
Sure.
But it was, we had curriculum coordinators and superintendents and principals and teachers and family members, but people that were invested in this career pathway and that genuinely could ask deep questions and celebrate the learning that the students have done. And so for me, that was kind of that missing capstone piece. And to see the confidence and the pride that the students had in their learning, and to then have people in the field be able to say, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. Like we have, fifth-year teachers that don't have this kind of understanding about how to engage with children, or to be able to laugh at, somebody who said, here's a picture of me on the first day of preschool wearing white pants, and now I know I would never wear white pants when I'm working with young children. Just just to be able to celebrate with people that understand what this career pathway is all about, I think was kind of the missing link. And so that's really what we're aiming for now.
Perfect. Rachel, as you prepare, because it's not just you get to May and then you put this together,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you've been already thinking about for your portfolio share or celebration? That's the word I want to use.
Yeah.
When we get ready for May, when you're going to share out with your authentic audience.
Yeah, well, last year we actually did put together portfolios for our class. Obviously, we didn't get to share them, but they were put together with things like, trainings that we had done, whether it's mandated reporting or health trainings, and then all the conferences that we go to and the workshops that we go to, and just all the work that we've done in the preschool. And it's a really big confidence booster, not only for me, but also for Miss Russell, and a great reminder of all the stuff that we've done to become the great student teachers that we are. And so, just really everything that we've done over the year, we try to put into paper and we try to put into that portfolio so we can show not only the administrators, but us, like we have done all the work to become the students and teachers that we are. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you ever flip through it now and go, wow, I've done doing a lot of work over the last year and a half?
Yeah, in the reflections, we're supposed to look back at previous observations and previous work that we've done and kind of reflect. And it's really funny to see, like how Ms. Russell said, like the things that we would say or the things that we would do last year compared to now. And it's really rewarding, but it's sometimes funny.
And we work on it all throughout the year. So they keep a collection of all of their materials that they accumulate, and we organize it by competency, program competency. And then periodically, as we develop our professional portfolio, that learning portfolio, I'm asking them to pull out pieces that are showing either their growth towards or their proficiency in those competencies. So they might pick out an A list from their first time in the preschool, and then they might add a reflection from their second year in the program and all the different responsibilities that they can handle now in the preschool without direct teacher guidance and how their independence has grown. So it's more about having them have some concrete evidence. And as interns, they do videos of themselves teaching and reflect on that. So it's not just paper, but that paper binder is a nice way to kind of our starting point.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Last question for both of you. You're having a pretty successful year, but what do you look forward for the rest of this year and then for next year? What are you looking forward to? How are you transferring these skills?
This year, I know Ms. Russell's excited about this too, or the internships that we're going to do. So my internship's not going to start until December, but I've been placed at the SAU16 school, and I'm going to work with some teachers there, speech language pathologists there. So I'm really excited to kind of work with children in a different capacity and learn more about myself and children and early childhood development.
So that internship, did you choose that, or did you have help finding a placement for it? Talk a little bit about that process, because I think that's important.
Yeah, so originally I wanted to do obviously something with ABA therapies. That's something I want to do post-high school, but we weren't able to find something like that. So another teacher reached out to us from SAU16 school, and speech language pathology has kind of been on my radar. So I just thought that would be something to try out. You never know what you like.
So we're targeting the developmental preschool over there because that way we have students with a variety of learning needs, but a lot of interventionists that are going to be able to support them. So she'll get exposure to that as well.
Awesome.
But basically, the students share with me what their interests are, and then I try and set them up with some opportunity to explore that. And they have 2 opportunities during the year, during quarter 2 and quarter 3. So it's a great time to kind of test the waters now and see if it's really what they think they want to continue to explore. So we're working on it.
Excellent. What about you, Ms. Russell? For the rest of this year, what are you excited for? Or what's something that you've been excited at the beginning of this year that you've seen?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me right now, like Rachel said, is like as the internships are getting rolling with the second years, it's my favorite part of the year because I actually get to go out and observe them in a different setting and kind of see them pull all the pieces together and to see them, continue to grow in their confidence and their skills. So that it is my favorite part of the year. But on like a professional note, I'm really looking forward to the fact that this is more of a shift in a priority for us now as a team of teachers at SST, trying to figure out if this is a priority, how are we going to work that into our curriculum and in our teaching to really showcase it and kind of figure out how do we embed this portfolio share or celebration into our our curriculum and our year. So working together as a team to figure out how we're going to be able to showcase the learning of our students is exciting to me. I think that there are a lot of misconceptions about career and tech ed, and so to be able to bring in authentic audiences to showcase all of the programs that we offer, and for people to see, wow, this is not the Voc that you remember growing up, that this is really an amazing opportunity, and to give these students an opportunity to shine and really showcase what they've accomplished, that's exciting to me.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank both of you. Rachel, thanks for giving the student perspective.
Thank you.
That was amazing. You were so well spoken. I'm always amazed when our kids get in front of people, how well they speak and how well they're prepared. And I think that's a credit to our schools and our teachers and just the perseverance that our kids have. And Ms. Russell, thanks for sharing, because it has been a shift. I think you're right. I would love more people to see what we do in all of our schools, but the career in tech is changed dramatically, and I don't think people get to see that, but hopefully they'll watch this and see a little bit different side to that schooling. So I appreciate it. If anybody has any questions, please email me, candrisky@SAU16, and if not, we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.